Good morning, guys. So, we have some more food shortages that we need to talk about. These are important because these are some things that we're going to go over today that we are already starting to see in the stores. Some of this stuff may be coming later in the year, but we have to prepare for this now. One of these things is beef. Beef is becoming a big one. It's pretty much on schedule with what they've been saying, but I know a lot of people like myself always hope for the better. But I'll tell you what, it's something that we need to pay attention to. So here I will be reading from the Daily Meal website. Okay, and they give off 13 different food shortages. A few of these we went over the other day. So I will leave a link to that video so you can check that out at the end of this one. But a couple of them here I really want to talk about. This is a new site that I've seen a couple things. So we'll just start off here. They go on to say, according to Beef Magazine, the USDA estimates that the average American will consume 5.6% less beef in 2023 than they did in 22. We already know that. Prices have gone through the roof on beef, so we know that. The steepest decline in consumption in nearly 40 years. 40 years. Now, that does have to do with a lot of things that we're doing these days, making new foods and stuff. I don't know. But at Sam's Club the other day, one of the things that we noticed was a lot of the prime meat cuts, a lot of choice, a lot of the good stuff is going out the door. And this is why I wanted to do this video today. And we're going to go over some other shortages, but this is really the big one here, guys. Because if you want your hamburger, you want your beef, I would start buying up some of it. I know the prices have gone through the roof, but I mean, we're expecting that it's going to get even higher. I can't imagine it getting any higher. This will definitely cause a lot of people not to eat beef in the future. And, it's like, I don't know. I mean, a lot of things have played up into this, but let's just go over it here. Let's see. Consumers' choice to buy less beef is related to economic concerns such as inflation, lackluster GDP growth, and escalating beef costs brought on by an ongoing shortage of the meat. According to the Washington Times, a devastating drought in Texas, which we know about, a devastating drought in Texas, which is responsible for 14% of the U.S. beef supply. I didn't know that. I knew it was high, but I didn't think it was that high. Led to a lack of grass feed for cows. So basically, it got so hot, the grass was dying and they weren't able to feed the cows. Meanwhile, alternative feeds are currently too expensive to be cost effective. All this resulted in early culls and slaughter of cows meant to be processed in 2023. So as ranchers catch up, consumers can expect a nationwide shortage of beef products of every kind. Now, we've seen a lot of hamburger, right? What I think's going on is farmers and everybody know this. They know that in order to feed the masses, we're going to have to get out the as much hamburger. I've been seeing more hamburger than ever, right? If you go to the store, you're probably seeing a ton of different hamburger. Well, the reason I believe, and you're seeing more expensive hamburgers too, like prime hamburger, it can go the distance, right? We're not seeing a lot of prime cuts of T-bone ribeye. We're seeing a lot of the cheaper steaks, like that ball tip ribeye that I always point out. I mean, it's like $6.99 a pound. Guys, that was $2.99 a pound a year and a half, 2 years ago. Okay, now we know that these things were going to go up a little bit in price and to expect it, but we've been seeing places like Sam's Club. Sam's Club didn't have any prime cuts. They only had a few choice cuts. They had a couple prime cuts, but you saw in the video, and I'll leave that video in the description box below if you want to check that out, but you saw in the video that it was very minimal. And there's been times when I've gone to Sam's Club and it's been completely wiped out. So, not trying to freak anybody out, but if you like your steak like I do, we've been buying local from local mom and pop places. So if you have like a farmer's market, or if you have like, they're getting the cuts. They know the people. They know the people who know the people. So, it's good to get in good with local butchers, stuff like this. If you want to get, if you're concerned about it. Now, one on here that I was a little concerned with myself is lettuce. We've been hearing more and more that lettuce has been going up in price. Okay, we've seen it. We've seen it at Kroger. We've seen it at Meijer. Some of the other stores we go. Okay, so they go on to say here, lettuce that crisp and leafy green that serves as the basis for countless salads and tops numerous sandwiches was harder to find than usual in the United States in 2022. The reasons are twofold, with weather and some virulent plant diseases working in concert to cause significant and successive blows to the lettuce crop in California, where most of America's supply is grown. Most of America's supply of any vegetables comes from California. According to the Grower Shipper Association of Central California, the region in and around agricultural cradle of Salinas experienced multiple unseasonable periods of warm weather which upset and scorched lettuce plants. Weakened by unsuccessfully trying to fight off the effects of the heat, the lettuce crop was left vulnerable to disease. And that's when Impatens neurotic spot virus INSV struck. So I guess that's the disease that killed off the lettuce that it got. It goes on to say here, insects called thrips introduce the disease to the lettuce crops. It manifests as spotting and discolorization. Now, we've been seeing that being sold in some stores. Now, I'm not saying it's, we've seen things where it's like, wow, why are they even trying to sell this lettuce? Like, it would have black spots on it. I've never seen that before, like, the last couple years. They would never put that on the shelf. We need to pause to acknowledge the coffee that we're having this morning. I knew this was going to be a long rant. It is going to be a long video, guys. I am drinking the Pike's Place. Needed something to wake up. Pike's Place is what gives me my energy to get through these rants. And some of these things you guys have been asking about. But a lot of these, I'm also going to switch to another website here in a minute where I want to talk a little bit more about the beef and what's going on. Where's the beef? So if you have to hit pause, get your coffee ready. We're going to rant on here for a little while. I was curious about lettuce. I really was, because it's like, we've seen the prices go up steadily. We've seen celery go up too recently. But I was curious, like, what was causing this? Because there was no information on any kind of lettuce or greens, right? This just came out yesterday, or a couple days ago. So I'm glad to finally have an answer with that. We pretty much know everything about the beef, but there is something I want to get into here in a couple minutes. They go on to talk about beer, which is funny because this is the first time I've ever actually saw beer on a website, right? We discussed this actually in another video yesterday, which I'll leave that link down below if you want to check that out. They are expecting a major beer shortage, right? I mean, it's funny. We hear about these things after we already see it in the stores. I went on in that video to talk about how we're not, we got some emails from different viewers and stuff, some different photos, a couple of them at Walmart where they were like wiped out of beer. I mean, like almost completely. I usually don't film like alcohol and stuff like that on the channel, but we noticed that at Meijer, we noticed at Sam's Club, very low on beer. And now we're just now finding out about this. They started off with talking about champagne, which this site actually talks about champagne here in the next one. But again, we went over that in the other video I'm going to leave for you at the end here. They go on to talk about oranges. Now, this is something I've been hearing from you guys, our viewers, that oranges may be in short supply coming up here. It says, according to the Florida Department of Citrus, that state is one of the world's most prolific regions for growing oranges and producing orange juice. The Florida climate usually provides ideal citrus conditions, including near tropical temperatures, plenty of rain and sun, and sandy soil. But when the weather gets even a little out of whack, hence a hurricane, I guess is where they're going, it can lead to catastrophic effects on Florida's orange crop, a situation playing out in 2023, according to Bloomberg. Goes on to say, in 2022, Hurricane Ian and Tropical Storm Nicole brought high winds and torrential rains, destroying the Florida orange crop. A lot of you guys we have a lot of viewers in Florida. A lot of people have been talking about this. And what's funny is that we're hearing from Floridians that don't have like orange juice in the stores. And we do. So I guess we're getting a lot of ours from California, right? Because California is another major one. But we're hearing from a lot of viewers in Florida that the oranges are hard to find. And it's just, I don't know. It just seems crazy to me. Another reason, I'm picking these things out as we go here because these are things that we're going to want to look at here in the very near future. Beef, oranges, lettuce. Write this down. Let's see. Followed an epidemic of citrus greening, a plant disease, of course, that makes oranges fall off branches before they're ready, producing a bitter-tasting fruit. While oranges are still hitting produce departments in American grocery stores, there's some comments that oranges really haven't tasted that good lately. From California and Brazil, where weather has been led to production decline, right? So it's not much better. The issues in Florida are the biggest cause of a shortage. I don't just blame Florida now. In October of 2022 to September 2023 season, Florida farmers are expected to produce 20 million boxes of fruit. 51% less than the previous season. That is half, more than half, 51%. That's crazy. That makes for the biggest drop since 1913, since probably any of us on this channel can even remember. And the lowest overall harvest since 1937. And they go on about cooking oil here. We went over that. Okay, here's an interesting one. Butter. Okay, is anybody out there seeing a shortage of butter? Because we are just overloaded with butter right now. Now, we know how fast that can disappear. Okay, but let's go into this here. If anybody's having any issues with butter, they go on to talk about it here. Refrigerated butter shelves in supermarkets aren't suddenly going to turn empty. That pretty much answered my question right there. The United States has been enduring some supply and cost issues with butter since the last few months of 2022. We saw that butter was skyrocketing in price. According to the Consumer Price Index, so you can look at Consumer Price Index here, inflation on consumer goods led to a 9.1% average price hike in 2022. That sounds about right, with food costs rising by more than 12%. Finally, some honest answers. While a range of issues is responsible for the economic crisis in general, butter experienced one of the steepest price upticks, specifically due to the lengthy labor shortage in the dairy farm sector and subsequent reduction in milk production. Less work means less milk, what they say, which in turn means a lot less butter, according to the Wall Street Journal. So take that for what you will. The overall butter supply is the lowest it's been since 2017. Butter seems to kind of go up and down over the years. I've looked at some USDA charts and stuff, and as one thing I will say about beef production, or beef, it's been on the decline for a long time. Like, it'll go up and it'll come down. But it stays lower and lower and lower. Even when it peaks, comes back down. Peaks, comes back down. If you want to check that out, you can go on the USDA website, and they have all the charts, and you can even get the updates like I do on their website. Okay, so eggs. I had hoped we wouldn't hear about eggs again, but this was not one that was on the site the other day that we were looking at, and this is an updated. And I'm not going to go on and on about this. It basically talks about the flu and stuff like that, and different reports you can look at for the Center of Disease Control, CDC. So last year, all that, and what they say what caused the prices to skyrocket was the 49 million birds that they had to call across 46 states. Now, from what I understand from a lot of farmers, this happens a lot right? I mean, this happens to where they have veterinarians come and then they test them. And they don't usually kill them all off. Usually some are fine, some aren't, and then who knows what happened this time around. But whatever it is, caused those prices to skyrocket. I just didn't want to go too much into that because we've covered eggs a lot on the channel here. I don't want to bore anybody. Here's one that kind of upsets me, though, is tomatoes. Okay, now I'll just read this for you. Okay, so for tomatoes, it's highly likely that the produce in the average American kitchen originated in 2021 in California, according to the state's Department of Food and Agriculture, the DFA. A third of the nation's vegetables and 75% of its fruit and nuts came from the Golden State. Sounds about right. By and large, California offers wonderful weather and growing conditions for crops, but if there's a drought, that can create cataclysmic effects on the food supply. And according to the Los Angeles Times says that's exactly what happened in the 2020s. California, in the midst of the driest 3-year period in recorded history in a single week, in October 22nd, I guess on that day when they recorded it, 94% of the state experienced serious drought conditions, reports Fox Business. They go on to say the U.S. Department of Agriculture reported in August 2022 that the lack of rain could prove particularly terrible for tomato farmers. Production forecasts dropped by 2% over the 2021 yield. So keep that in mind, which could lead to way less tomatoes available for 2023, not to mention all the products made with tomatoes, such as ketchup and pasta sauce. And what are some of the things that people have been talking about again in the comments? Canned tomatoes. Canned tomatoes. We've been getting more and more comments on that again. I got some emails. Somebody was like, got one from Walmart. Same person that sent me the picture of the missing beef at Walmart and stuff like that. And it was very low on like tomato sauce, different tomato sauces and stuff, ketchup. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. And another one here is bread. Okay, now this ties in with wheat and stuff, and they go on to talk about Russia, but this is a different article, so I will read this to you guys because I like this. I like the daily meal here. It's interesting to check out. You should check this website out. There's all kinds of different things you can do, meal planning, stuff like that, cooking your own foods and stuff. I really do like this website. The Russian invasion of Ukraine and subsequent and ongoing war was one of the biggest global news stories of 2022. It's still waging in 2023, and its ramifications will be felt in the food world and beyond. According to the Brookings Institution, so this is where they got it from, Brookings Institution, about 20% of the world's cereal grain production, namely wheat, comes from those countries, whose large-scale farming operations remain interrupted. With that of a large portion of the wheat business out of the game for the time being, that's likely to result in a shortage of things made from wheat, like bread. Exports resumed in November 2022, according to Bloomberg, but it could take time for the wheat supply to return to pre-war levels. Yeah, like years. Another interesting thing, too, they mentioned oils here, right, cooking oils. They have separate on here olive oil. Okay, now we had talked about different cooking oils that are going to be in short supply, but this is something that I wanted to talk about for just a second because it's separate. And I don't really understand. It's like a separate thing here. Okay, so with olive oil, which they're expecting a shortage, we know that. It can take many months to meet demand for globally popular foods that are grown on a large scale in a handful of regions. That's why it became evident as early as the summer of 2022 that olive oil shortage was in the cards for 2023. According to Atlas Obscura, OBSQURA, Atlas Obscura, the issue was forecasted in 2010 when a tree blighting bacteria of Latin America called Xylella fastidiosa, I probably destroyed that, Xylella fastidiosa, surfaced and made its way to Puglia region of Italy, where 12% of the world's olive oil supply is produced. By 2021, Xylella had infected a solid third of the area's 60 million olive trees, making the fruit unusable before completely killing the tree itself. I remember hearing about this. It's been a while, but I remember hearing something about that. Okay, and one here, and thank you to Daily Meal here who decided to mention this because it's probably one of the most important on here, right? Because, baby formula, okay? Baby formula. And I know we cover baby formula a lot. Probably won't go through all of this. I'll just read this last part here. It says, the shortage, while not in such a critical state, right? It's not. We've been seeing it in a lot of places. But the shortage, while not in a critical state, as was the case earlier in the year, continued through 2022, according to Reuters. It will likely remain in effect into the middle of 2023. Manufacturer Reckitt Benckiser said the manufacturer of formula market leader Enfamil announced that while many companies had increased production, it still wouldn't be enough to stabilize the market or get stock to 2021 levels. So that is it with the Daily Meal here. Now I'm going to see if I can find this other one we were looking at. Okay, so we have Good Rancher's website here. A few of you guys have mentioned this website before, so I wanted to check this out. And a lot of it is some of the same numbers. I like going to a website and seeing the same numbers, right? There may be a grain of truth in this, but we're going to just read from a little bit of this here. I do like this website. I've already read through all this, but I wanted to go over some of this information with you guys. So, goes on to say, the meat industry forecast for 2023 predicts a significant decrease in the supply of beef, leading to higher prices for everyone. We know that. Reports estimate that on average, Americans will eat 5.6% less, right? I mean, obviously, I think that's an easy number to figure out because the prices are just so high. Prices have gone through the roof. Okay, so they say, if you don't want to eat less meat, then securing your supply now is crucial. I completely agree. That's why we're talking about this. Why we're bringing it up. If you love your meat like I do, it might be a good idea when you find it. Not worry so much about the price. Just make sure you secure it. Like we were saying before, go to your local farmers markets. Get to know some of your local farmers, some of your mom and pop places, butcher shops, stuff like that, which people should do anyway. Let's see, when the supply dropped 4%, this is interesting. When the supply dropped 4% in 2003, fed steer prices advanced nearly 25%. We're seeing that higher now. Similar to the situations in 2011, when there was a 3.9% decline in supplies that led to a 20% price increase. 2014, 3.8% that led to a 23% price jump. And they go on to say, we could be looking at a similar 20% price hike for beef in 2023. And 20% of today's prices is significantly higher than what it was a few years ago, obviously. They go on to say there are several reasons behind the current meat shortage crisis. The closure of meat processing plants due to outbreaks or even potential outbreaks of the cough among workers caused a major slowdown in production, leading to supply chain disruptions. The pandemic has also led to decrease in the total herd size since farmers were selling cows earlier than they usually would. They did this to take advantage of the cough prices and probably to stay open in trying times. They got to make money too, I understand. And they also have this is the cattle inventory map here, which it too has been on a steady. This is the U.S. same thing, USDA right here. This is their map. Then we go on. There's some other interesting things here that that I wanted to discuss. Another factor contributing to the shortage is the increasing demand for meat in developing countries, particularly in Asia. As these countries become wealthier, their citizens are consuming more meat, leading to a higher demand for it globally. This increased demand has led to record beef exports from the U.S. to Asia, which causes us to further depend on imported meat to fill the gap in our own stores and meals. Isn't that funny? We send them product and then we get product from overseas. Like, I don't know. Let me know in the comments how do you feel about that? What do you think? They go on to say too that prime and choice beef options may not always be available. Already there. Consumers will have to make difficult decisions about the types of meat they consume and how much they are willing to pay for it this year. For those on a tight budget, this could mean eating less meat or opting for cheaper, less desirable cuts, which we talked about, if they rely on their grocer entirely. But even the cheap cuts are ridiculously expensive. The meat shortage is also likely to have a significant impact on the meat industry. Yeah. Meat producers will have to adjust their operations to meet the new demands of consumers, which may mean reducing their margins or shifting their focus to other types of meat. This could also lead to the closure of some small local meat producers as they are unable to compete with larger, more established players in the industry. This will be a continuation of over 100,000 small farms closing down in America due to the odds being stacked against them and low-quality imported goods flooding the market. Guys, I'll tell you what. I talk about it all the time on the channel. All the time. Stock up. Stock up on the things you love now. That's why we went over this today. It's very important. We have been talking about it, and like I said, I'm not trying to be like, oh no, the world's coming to an end. Go out and get your meat. I'm not saying it like that. I'm saying be smart. Be smart. Be prepared. We have time to start stocking up on a little bit of these things. If you have a vacuum sealer or other means to freeze said meat, do so. Even if you don't, we always try to point out all these things in our adventures into the grocery stores to help try and save you money. And we point out every time I see those, and you can find them online. Online is a wonderful tool to be able to get these things like a vacuum sealer, food saver machine, or I know there's cheaper ones, cheaper bags, stuff like that. You can look online, look around. But I'll tell you what, now is the time. Now is the time to make sure that you are stocking up on the things that you love, because you know what? They might not be here in the next few months, or it might not be affordable at all. We haven't been buying a lot of meat. I've been spending a little bit more money buying it at our mom and pop place, the butcher shop, because I want them to stay in business, right? I mean, I want my money going there anyway, because they're and they do good. They do good. But I mean, it's like for the quality of what we're getting in the mainstream, in the main huge, gigantic supermarkets, grocery stores like Kroger, Meijer. I don't care who it is. I love Meijer meat. I do. Kroger's quality's gone way downhill. And Kroger, it's like, and even Meijer, all of them. I'm not blaming one store here. They're selling these prices of the cheapest quality meat. Look at how they call chuck steaks now. Right? You used to be able to get those for like $1. You get like 4 of them for like $3. Now they're like $8.99, $9.99 a pound. And this is the cheapest steak you can buy, cheapest quality. Sirloin. And sirloin, I mean, it's just, this is the thing. It's like, and I know that everybody can't afford it. Everybody can't afford it. We can't afford it. We're not eating as much meat but is this... I'm not going to rant on for too much longer. I mean, there's things I want to say that I just really want to keep off the channel. Make sure you let me know down in the comments if you have any idea what I'm talking about. I just think that with everything going on, I feel like this is something bigger than what we're looking at. I really do. I can't imagine, just how fast things are falling apart. Things are falling apart right in front of our eyes. They're telling us that lettuce is bad. by a, and then is it thrown in the grocery stores? Like, is it, well, this is all Kroger can get. Let's buy this black moldy looking lettuce. And if you don't believe me, there's proof. I've had hundreds and over a thousand videos where we've gone through and have seen this all for ourselves, right? All the produce that just looks terrible, right? And the thing is that, I don't know really who to point the finger or blame for that. Maybe it just sat there for too long. Maybe it's employee shortages. Who knows? But anyway, those are my thoughts. Make sure you let me know your thoughts down below. I will be putting videos kind of all over the place here. I'll have the other food shortage video right here. I'll have another video right here for you if you're bored and want to just hang out for another coffee rant with Danno. I will have these videos up here. I'll have a couple more down in the bottom. You can watch and enjoy. Thank you all so much for joining me. Have a great night.